Hello once again. Thank you for joining me on the Jessica Brimer channel. And today I'd like to share my thoughts on the incoming NGO bill that government of Nigeria is planning to, sign into law. This bill is called the NGO bill, but the truth is it's a bill to regulate churches. Yes, I know they are talking about not all non-governmental organizations in Nigeria, including churches and mosques. But of course, you and I know that they're not interested in regulating mosques because mosques are just being used by government, the northern oligarchs. They use the mosques to radicalize their people and turn them to jihadists and mass slaughterers. That has been what we've experienced with the Buhari government. So we know that this bill is not about regulating mosques, it's more about regulating the churches. They just included mosques there, just to help with the conscience. But of course, they are out to regulate churches. You see, the sad thing about this bill is that it has passed the first and second reading in the National Assembly. And they seem to be having it easy because there's really not much opposition. So they're going to pass this bill. The sad part of this, the most dangerous part of the bill is that it will be giving licenses, 2-year licenses to churches, to ministers of the gospel. Your license will be renewed every 2 years. And of course, Nigeria, as long as you're not dancing to the tunes of the people in power, your license will certainly not be renewed. And wait for it. They will also decide what you do with the money you collect in the churches. They will decide what NGOs do with the foreign aid, the monies they get from foreign organizations. They just want to tie the rope around everybody's neck, pulling everybody to their direction. It's either you dance to their tune or you lose your rights as a citizen, whatever you're doing, You see, when I see evil, as a God-fearing evangelist, I see evil anywhere, I attack it. I raise my voice against it, because once that evil succeeds in one place, it will certainly swallow up every other person. As somebody who mentors people, who gives dating advice to people, trying to figure out, should I marry this person or should I marry that person? One of the things I tell people is, if you want to know somebody, just check out the way they treat other people, especially people who are at their mercy. So the way you know the wickedness of Nigerian leaders is the way they've trampled upon the masses, upon the innocent masses. Successive governments in Nigeria have always been worse than the previous, except for Obasanjo's government that was like the best so far. Sagari's government was so corrupt, and we were screaming, this is corruption, MPN is corrupt. And then what happened? The military coup took place. And what happened? Buhari came in. And nepotism was enthroned. Yes, Buhari had a deputy that was a man of conscience, that was helping to lead the country in the path of discipline and morality. But Buhari wasn't having that. And that was why Babangida just overthrew Buhari. Said, this man is a fundamentalist. This man is not qualified to lead a country. And we all laughed at Babangida and said, why did he do that? That government was good. But you see what Babangida saved us from? That what we saw Buhari doing in his civilian capacity as a president, it was so terrible. I can't imagine what he would have done to us as a military head of state. It would have been beyond terrible. So Babangida overthrew Buhari, and his government became the most corrupt. He just made it an official system. Corruption became official in Nigeria. So you hear people say, oh, you use what you have to get what you want. And the moral compass was completely destroyed under Babangida's regime. Military officers started sleeping with people's wives, and in the guise of giving them contracts, and all sorts of iniquity was perpetuated. And then what happened? Buhari was overthrown, and Babangida, was he really overthrown? No, he handed over. He did election that was free and fair, and refused to recognize the winner of the election, because what the northerners want is a stooge they can control in the south. If they can't control you, they won't allow you have the power. And so they brought in Shoneko. Of course, Abacha just pushed away Shoneko after some months and said, listen, I'm the one really. I stayed back from Babangida's government to make sure that I also do my own turn. Abacha took over. Abacha didn't just mainstream corruption. Abacha looted Nigeria so hollow. He kept transferring our money to banks abroad. Banks abroad. Up to today, we are still receiving Abacha's loot. That's to tell you how much of our loot this man looted, and how much of our money, our commonwealth that he looted and stashed away in foreign accounts. And so after Abacha and all the rubbish that happened, his death and everything, and then they begged Obasanjo to come. Obasanjo did well. He did well, better than any of them so far. That's why I say he did well. He wasn't fantastic, really, because there was still a bit of corruption, but it was in hushed tones. Corruption was a bit in hushed tones. And then Obasanjo made the mistake of giving us somebody who was not even qualified as a governor, somebody who messed up his state as a governor because he was ill most of the time. He gave us a man with a chronic illness to rule Nigeria. And that was when they sowed the seeds of people who are ill and unable to rule the country, the seeds of them taking over power in Aso Rock. That evil seed Obasanjo sowed with Yaradua. It almost crippled Nigeria. And then he brought Jonathan. Jonathan came with a lot of promise, but unfortunately he wasn't just incompetent. He had no clue what power was all about. His wife was no better. And then they finished the charade of the Jonathan administration, only for us to have a man we thought, oh, he's a man of integrity. The administration of Buhari just buried Nigeria financially, economically, morally, religiously. He just destroyed. It was as if the man was out to just destroy the entity called Nigeria. It's terrible. A man that valued cows more than human lives. A man that locked up all the borders. He sealed off all the borders in the south and opened up northern borders and asked his Fulani brethren from outside Nigeria to come and slaughter the way, kill the indigenous people and take over Nigeria. He did that. We all watched it. We all witnessed that. It was beyond pardon, And then what happened? He released a policy and said anybody coming from African countries don't need a visa to come to Nigeria. So it was an excuse for his Fulani brethren all over the world, all over Africa, to come and take over Nigeria. And it's still happening. What shocked me the other day was Ribadu, a man we thought was it, saying that because he has been appointed the national security advisor, that already the terrorism was abating, that it was reducing. How can you say that? People are being murdered in thousands every day in Benue State. Imo State is another hotspot. People are being killed, slaughtered in Imo State by Fulani herdsmen and Fulani invaders from outside Nigeria. And the Imo Supreme Court governor just turns the other way, saying he's looking for unknown gunmen and Biafra militants. Can you imagine? He's not looking after the people, looking for the people. He's not going after, yes, that's the right way to say it. He's not even going after the people, slaughtering innocent indigenes of Imo State, especially in Olu. They turned Olu into a theater. They burn houses, they slaughter villages. Even the governor himself brought soldiers to bomb markets and bomb villages with the excuse that they told him they make the militants, the Biafra IPOB militants, we are making bombs in the market. He got the intelligence from a member that was arrested. Why didn't the man take you to the spot where they were making the bombs? He bombed people in the market. The last time Nigerians, Southerners experienced that kind of thing was during the Civil War, where a lot of women went to the market. They never went back home because the air raids will always come and throw bombs in the market and kill people. And this is what the governor of Imo State did to his people in Imo State. And people are so helpless. What can you do? He used soldiers to slaughter innocent people, burn villages. So the headsmen are burning, the invaders, the Fulani terrorist invaders are burning houses and people in Imo State, and the governor is also using state security agents to do the same thing. I have the video on my channel here where he was giving an excuse why I bombed the markets. He actually accepted that he bombed the market. He didn't deny. Anyway, what am I talking about? So we have watched all these evils going on, and pastors that should be speaking up and crying out are keeping quiet. They are hand in hand with politicians. Now the politicians are going to deal with them. The politicians are out to deal with the pastors. They finish dealing with those of us that have no capacity to fight back, the capacity to speak up, capacity for anything. Now they're going after the pastors. They want to bring everybody under them. This government has started, everything about this government is worse than the previous, than Buhari's government. Fuel price from 165 naira to 700 naira a liter. Who lives life that way? Nigerians already starving. Salaries have not been paid in some states for over 8 months. And then they're increasing the salaries of political people and political office holders, the senators, House of Assembly, and people working in as aides, political aides and all that. They just want to settle themselves. The political camp, they just want to settle themselves while the rest are starving. 114% increase in the salary of all these politicians. How sad. How very sad. Recently, Winga Daniel said, look, don't pay me pensions and allowances as ex-governor anymore because I'm in the Senate. Did you see the list of senators that are still collecting pensions from the states where they used to be governors, where they looted the treasury, where they refused to pay pensions to old civil servants who were dying in droves because of lack of pension money? But these governors, they're in the Senate collecting billions as salaries and allowances, and they're also collecting from the states they governed years back. Winga Daniel exposed them. He said, my conscience does not allow me to be collecting pension allowances while I'm also receiving salaries from the Senate. No, I can't do that. He told the governor there, don't pay me. And I think every governor should do that. It's just that most states of the federation, the governors there were appointed by the previous ones. So they are just stooges. They are just stooges. That's who they are. So they just do what the ex-governor bids them to do. I don't want to take much of your time. I want you to listen to this video on the NGO bill and the regulation of churches. Listen and understand what it's really all about.
Nigeria's National Assembly is currently considering the NGO regulation bill for passage. It has gone through the first reading, it's gone through second reading, it's now in committee stage, and later this month, the Committee on NGOs in the House of Representatives in Abuja will be holding a public hearing on the bill. And it's important that you understand what this bill means and its implications for both yourself as a citizen and for the country in general. And let me be clear, this is the most dangerous piece of legislation that has come for consideration in the National Assembly since the return to civil rule in 1999. It covers the activities of every entity and everybody that is not government. And it affects churches, mosques, schools, universities, hospitals, everything, as well as humanitarian operations wherever they are taking place in the country, whether in the northeast or in the southeast or south-south, whether in the middle belt or in the northwest or southwest. It is totalitarian in its consequences. Now, what does the bill require? Basically, all resources, all funds, everything that are collected or liable to be collected and made available to service communities, individuals in need in this country will be subject to Abuja. Before you can raise funds in your church and your mosque, you have to get Abuja's permission. After you've raised the money, you have to return them to Abuja for Abuja to tell you what to do with them. And when you've done that, only Abuja can help you to do your audits. Nobody can operate anything without clearance from Abuja. It's worse than a totalitarian piece of legislation. For the old mamas and old papas doing isusu in the village, that is revolving credit. Before you do your collections, you come to Abuja for clearance. After you've done your collections, before you share the money or rotate the collections amongst the beneficiaries, you come to Abuja for clearance. Ahmadiyya movement will have to come to Abuja for clearance. NASFAT will come to Abuja to do anything. The mosques that do collections every Friday to support people in their congregations and their communities will all have to account for that money to civil servants who will either tell them what to do with it or collect it and trouser it into their pockets. The churches will be out of business, the mosques will be endangered. This is what the legislators want us to subscribe to. And as a citizen, you've got to understand that this means that there will be no voice of criticism for government. Nobody can tell government anything. What this body proposes to do, what government is proposing with this bill, is that after it has been passed, everybody organizing in Nigeria under any form, students, all students association, reverend sisters in convents, reverend fathers and pastors, wherever they may be, imams, alfas, and everybody, you will have to apply to Abuja for them to register you to operate. If they agree to register, they can refuse to register you, in which case you cannot do anything. Now, if they agree to register you, however, you will have to only hold that license for 2 years. After those 2 years, you will have to apply for them to renew your license. If they agree at that time to renew your license, you can continue operating for another 2 years. If they don't agree, that license lapses. If you try to do anything without that license, you'll be liable to be imprisoned for 18 months. And if they are sympathetic and agree not to send you to jail, you may be let go with a fine of 500,000 naira. The civil servants will collect this money in the name of the politicians. It will be used to fire up political power that will not be accountable to any one of us. And this is why I'm saying that this is the most dangerous piece of legislation that's been considered in our country to date, in the past 20 years. But you can do something about it. This does not have to be law. This will not be law if you agree that as the citizen, you are the boss. Contact your legislator at the state level, contact your legislator in Abuja, contact your senator, and your distinguished senator in your senatorial zone, and tell them this will not happen. This is your country too. And unless you fight for it, these people are going to destroy it, not just for you, but for your children and for your grandchildren. And that they don't have a mandate to do. My name is Chidi Anselm Odinkalu. I'm a Nigerian citizen.
This is the Jessica Brima channel. Kindly hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoy what you're listening to, please hit the thumbs up sign. You just see it on the platform. Hit the thumbs up sign so that this particular story can go around. Thank you so much. Share with somebody, please, so that the world will know that Nigeria has been buried by Buhari and Tinubu is not ready to resurrect the nation that we all once knew as Nigeria. Things are getting worse, sadly. Thank you so much for listening. This is Evangelist Jessica John Brima. Our hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and his righteousness. We dare not trust the sweetest frame, but we wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ, the solid rock we stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. Let's listen to the prof, please.